Darren Ravel from Collect here with Tom House. 50 years ago today, Tom was in the bullpen for the Atlanta Braves and caught Henry Aaron's number 715. Tom, thanks so much for joining us. This is a real treat.
My pleasure, Darren. It doesn't seem like 50 years, but it actually is. So I look around at my buddies and I say, boy, they look old. And then I look at myself. But again, this takes it back to where great things about sports, you can be a 77-year-old, 12-year-old, and that's exactly what I am.
So I want to take us back. Obviously, this is a collectibles site, but I got to take people back to the stories because I'm a historian and I've read through plenty of accounts, and you have to provide the context here, which is Hank Aaron had the pressure ending the 73 season, going into the 74 season. Um, and the pressure was immense. Probably aside from Jackie Robinson, the greatest pressure of all time because of race issues, death threats. Really, the nicest guy in the world who had to endure so much. So, as a teammate of his, how much of that did you see, and how much of that did you find out later?
Well, we didn't see it. Henry is the same whether he's in the middle of a hurricane or a Sunday snooze. Quiet and confident, um, always even tempered in the clubhouse and on the bench. Um, Henry was just Henry, and we knew last year as the season was winding down that there was stuff going on. But it's only been recently that I understood exactly how much stuff was going on. And I have a little bit of a unique perspective because Dusty Baker and Ralph Garr are my buddies. I mean, I went through the minor leagues with him. I actually roomed with Dusty a couple of years down in Venezuela, and um, they've been hanging out with Henry and a lot, kind of as support systems and passing the time playing cards. So they've kind of kept me appraised. But I saw toward the end of last year, Henry stopped coming to the hotels on the bus with the team,
Hmm.
and he was registered in hotels under a different name, and he had Calvin the bodyguard. So we knew it was exciting times, but we didn't realize there was a dark side to the excitement too.
The arrangement for what was going to happen when he hit 715 was unlike anything that has ever happened in sports to that point from a collectible standpoint. The Braves made employees sign documents that they wouldn't keep the ball or sell the ball. Magnavox had a huge contract with Henry, so big that he got paid more than the CEO, and they kind of wanted the ball. Spalding had made an offer for the ball and said they would give it to the Hall of Fame. There was a guy in Venezuela who said he would pay for the ball, and apparently, first game of the year, at least at Fulton County Stadium, Sammy Davis Jr. offers $25,000 to anyone who catches it. He's going to bring it to Vegas for his show, and then he's going to give it back to Hank. And then you guys in the bullpen where you're divvying up your spots. So tell me just how complicated this all seemed, which seems unprecedented for 1974.
Yeah, it was chaos, kind of controlled chaos. And I don't know if you're aware or the public is aware that each ball had ultraviolet. You hold it under the ultraviolet, and it was a note. So there was in the umpire's pockets, there was the Henry Aaron balls, and then everybody else's. And
First time they ever did that. I think they had 36 balls per game with the
yeah,
ultraviolet 714 or 715. They'd never done that before.
yeah, and that was interesting. Nobody told us in the bullpen what we if we got the ball, what to do with it. We knew intuitively Let me take a step back. Jack Aker was the salty vet in the bullpen, and he was smart enough to know that there was, if the ball was hit over the fence in the left field bullpen, that he didn't want a pig pile with all of us trying to get the ball and fighting for it. So we had arranged territories, and each of us had about a 10-yard territory. Buzz Capper was on my left and left center. And then coming from left center, it just trickled all the way down to Jack Aker, who was actually on the foul line.
And that
And
and that for Hank, the way he pulled, that was the prime spot, right? You weren't in the ball.
yes, and that's, you know, we did the draw the straws thing, and it boiled down to like baseball still is today. The rookies take a beating. And because the only guy on the team that had less time in the big leagues than me was Buzz Capper. But I didn't mind so much, and I've been public about this. I threw a lot of batting practice to Henry, and I kind of noted in my brain that when the ball was a fastball away or a changeup away, he could hit home runs, but he didn't pull them. He hit them more toward left center. And so I was comfortable with where Jack Aker put me, kind of in the left center area. And again, the hoopla leading into it, I knew something was weird when it was hard to get to the stadium, driving to the ballpark that day. Because Atlanta had a really solid fan base of about 15,000 people. They were rabid fans. They were there every night. Well, all of a sudden, we're driving to Fulton County Stadium and there's a traffic jam trying to get into the parking lot. So that was my first real indication that this was not only big to the baseball world, but it was big to the fan world in Atlanta. So that
50
was kind of,
50,000 in the seats and 34 million watching on TV.
it was classic. It was the first time in my life that I realized in big crowds, you don't hear the noise, you feel it. It kind of bounces off your face. That's that's kind of the setting for me. It was chaotic in the clubhouse too. There were riders and superstar retired athletes. There were, you said, Sammy Davis Jr. Um, the guy that wrote Paper Lion. I'm drawing a blank on his
George
name.
Clinton.
George Plimpton was walking around doing interviews. He'd actually been there 2 or 3 days. So there was a really neat little buzz going on that I'd never been around before. So it was really cool.
Okay, so you got your spot in the bullpen there, and Al Downing throws the pitch, and Henry hits it. I know you've told other people you don't realize what happened from you running into the bullpen to give the ball to Henry, but so the ball is really coming at you. How much do you have to move to catch it?
If I would have stood still, and this, I'm not exaggerating, this is the honest to God truth. If I would have stood still, it would have hit me right in the forehead. Everybody talks about what a great catch it was. It was like shagging a fly ball in the outfield during batting practice. But as I caught the ball, and a big fish net, right after I
Ah!
caught it, a big fish net came kind of whooshing in front of my face. I guess some Georgia Tech engineer had figured out how to get an extension down. So I noticed that. And then off camera before we started, we talked about Bill Buckner climbing the fence, and he was late, but he climbed the fence, and if he would have got there on time, he could have caught it. But it was already in my glove when I started to run, and he basically said, "Housey, give it to me, give it to me." I said, "See you later." And that's really the
Bill,
last
Bill,
thing I.
Bill, Bill wanted the ball.
Oh yeah, he was screaming, "Give it to me, give it to me." But again, I was already 1 or 2 steps into my trek to home plate. I do not remember getting there. I just remember in my mind, I got to get this, give it to Henry. I got to give it to Henry. Like, I got to home plate. It was, body press. Everybody was there. And I kind of fought through the crowd. And I think well, I know the pictures in the Hall of Fame in his exhibit. I came right up to his face. He was hugging his mom. They were both squeezing each other, tears in their eyes. And I said, "Here it is, Hank." And he kind of looked over his mom's shoulder, reached out, and said, "Thanks, kid," and took the ball. And then I kind of got pushed out of the way. But um, again, I don't remember how long or how fast it took me to get there. All I remember is when I did get there, it was cool getting it to him. And then that moment at home plate, lifesaver moment is what I like to call it. And there's a double meaning on that, but that's kind of what it was like.
And you were making MLB minimum of 12 grand.
12,500 is
Okay.
I believe what it was in
Okay, so
that time.
you had a chance to get double your salary at the time. Did it ever cross your mind to say, "Hey, Hank's going to get it back anyway through Sammy Davis. Why don't I just sell it to Sammy Davis? Hank will get it back." Did it ever cross your mind to do that?
No, Darren, it didn't. And I don't think anybody would have done anything different than myself. Remember, in 1974, memorabilia, you're a collector and you realize the value of collectibles. Well, this was 1974, and nobody really understood that having that home run ball in their hands would actually have that kind of money. So again, I truly believe that anybody on the field with either team, Dodgers or Braves, nobody would have done anything different than me. Run it in and give it to Henry because it's Henry's moment, not anybody else's.
Can you believe what a historical ball is worth today?
No, I have a difficult time understanding. Even here, this will put it in perspective. I had a kid come up the other day, a little 12, 13-year-old, and said, "Hey, Coach House, you know you can get all your cards on eBay for $1." So that's how I relate to memorabilia. The fact that you can get, can you imagine what a first home run from Otani, that type of stuff is going to generate? It's a completely different world. It's cool, but if you're in that business, how do you come up with a value proposition for a collectible? Is it what the market will bear?
It's either that or it's how much money someone has. I was looking at items that sold from that game. An official scorecard sold for $11,000, signed by Hank. And there was a ball that sold for 22,000 that had Al Downing, Hank, Darrell Evans, who I believe he was on first
On
base,
first base, yeah,
right, and Ron Reed, who was the starting pitcher in that game,
right.
um, which is interesting. So I'm going to ask you this question. Have you ever signed balls that had Hank on it? Had people asked you to do that?
I have a a big carafe, I think they call it, of there's no wine in it. It's a big carafe, and it has I have my signature, Henry Aaron's signature, and Al Downing's signature on it. And a collector out here, Ron Salisbury, has a restaurant, and he got one, I got one, Henry got one, and Al Downing got one. Um, that's pretty much it. Now you said something that do you mind? Did you say that there was a collector in Venezuela that was really interested?
Yes, who offered $15,000 at the time,
Okay,
supposedly.
I need to throw this at you. It came up in an interview, or I can't remember, last week, but the fellow that we were talking to asked me what I did with the glove. Well, right after the season was over, I hot-footed it down to Venezuela for the LaGuardia Tiburones. And the second day there was a break-in, and they stole everything in my locker. So do the math. Your conspiracy theory or whatever. Uh, and I never saw the glove after that. Never heard from him.
Wow. Wow.
So that you just connected a dot that I'd never heard before.
Wow, wow, wow. Yes,
So
in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution story, I believe on maybe April 4th or 5th, they were talking about all the offers, and they did say there was a $15,000 offer from Caracas. So,
that
and
might be something to pursue
yeah,
because the glove I caught it with um, was basically stolen out of the clubhouse the third day of the winter ball season after I got there. So that might be something that, you
A
know,
new, a new, a
yeah,
new lead, a new lead. Not the lead I
I-
was looking for, but
yeah.
a new lead. How much do you think your name, right? Because your name is out there because of this, then helped you with the father of modern pitching, and your career helping quarterbacks, and just having that name out there, um, associated with Henry. How did that help you?
Well, I think the immediate help showed in the 1974 season that I had statistically. My career was marginal, marginal, marginal. One really, really good year, and then marginal, marginal, marginal. I was always a fringe guy, ninth, 10th man on a 10-man pitching staff, slightly below average big league numbers. If you look at my numbers in 1974, uh, after I caught Henry's ball, I think I had a 1.92 ERA with 12 or 13 saves in the National League West. Um, and I believe it was a combination of a lot of things. The the fact that I was content if I never did anything else in the big leagues. I got to be associated with one of the most, cool incidents in the history of baseball. So nobody could take that away from me. And everywhere I went, um, I became Tom House, the guy who caught Henry Aaron 715. And it also reinforced in my mind how really, really good fans can be. Because it went out that, I gave the ball to him and didn't even consider 25 grand either from Sammy Davis Jr. or anybody. And all of a sudden, I started getting fan mail, and all the fan mail, there was a buck or a $5 bill. I remember I got one that was a $50 bill, and I went home that night. And the next day, I took my wife and my two kids. We went to Lums was huge on our list, and we spent the whole $50 at Lums. So I guess in the long haul, we figured out I got about $3,000 just from wonderful fans around the country that kind of appreciated the fact that I didn't hold the ball up for money. So yeah, 74 was a magical year for me.
And you'd say that was your career highlight?
Yeah, and I've said a
Are you
variation
okay
on
with
it.
are you okay with that?
Yeah, the good news is that's the highlight of my major league career. The bad news is that's the highlight of my major league career. So it's yin and yang. But I wouldn't trade those moments for anything.
So Tom, Magnavox paid Henry Aaron $200,000 a year. It was $40,000 more than their CEO. It was all over the place. I think it was on the 715 certificate that people got. They really made a push through him. They didn't have an offer for the ball, but they, I think, kind of wanted it to be somewhere around them. So tell me what happened with Magnavox and you and Henry.
Well, this speaks to Henry's makeup as a person, not just an elite superstar baseball guy. He literally asked Magnavox uh, if they could give me what they called an entertainment center, but what it was like a state-of-the-art television with a stereo next to it. And so a couple of days after Henry hit the home run, there's a tap on the door at our apartment. And it was next to Stone Mountain, that's all I remember. And here's the Magnavox people within the entertainment center. And they literally put it right in the middle of my living room. And there's pictures of it floating around. We didn't have any furniture. When you're like I was, where you're, trying to make ends meet, all our furniture was blow up furniture.
Ah,
So the only piece of real furniture we had that whole year in that apartment was the Magnavox. But how cool was it of Henry to have them put a television entertainment center in my apartment? Um, and again, you hit it earlier. The minimum salary in the big leagues was 12.5, and I wasn't making any more than that. So all things considered, I I got probably about a $2,000 Magnavox Entertainment Center because of Henry's generosity and Magnavox's generosity, and then all the fans that put a dollar bill or a $20 bill or one time a $50 bill. How neat was that? And again, when I look back on my career, that was probably the best baseball year that was ever had by a left-handed rookie from way back when.
How much did you stay in touch with Henry throughout the years?
Like, I probably talked to him 3, 4 times a year. Obviously, every April 8th, Braves do something or did something. And one of my favorite watches, on the 10th anniversary, Henry brought everybody that could come back for the event, and they replayed the whole thing. Tried to get someone to hit the home run and have me catch. But anyway, they played it out, and we all got a watch. And I have that watch in my safety deposit box. And it was a thank you from Henry for sharing 715. So those are the kind of things. And again, because of Dusty, um, I had the opportunity to probably see through Dusty, see Henry more than most of the guys that were actually living in Atlanta.
Tell us what you're doing today, your projects, things that you're associated with.
Well, I managed to stay busy. I got really, really lucky in that I hit the crease perfectly between old school and then the current high tech that baseball is with all the science and the good stuff. I kept going to school, so I had my PhD, and I became aware of the value of research. And I think I was the first non-academic or non-medical coach to buy a motion analysis system. So I've got a second mortgage on my home in 1986, bought a motion analysis system, an aerial system, and started doing research. After I got released in '79, I stayed in the game as a coach and made the trek, rookie ball, double A, triple A, traveling coordinator, and then Bobby Valentine hired me to be his big league pitching coach
And that
in
that
80.
that's really, so you were really the first one to bring biophysics, right? Biophysics, why things are happening, look inside the body, uh, someone who was a professional athlete to do so.
Yes, I'm pretty sure there were other medical doctors, but I think I was the first researcher, biomechanist, that looked at movement at 1,000 frames a second, functional strength. My PhD is actually in sports psychology, and then one of my degrees is in nutrition. So I took those four pillars and built a couple of very strong businesses around them. National Pitching Association, 3D and then Mustard. And I've stayed pace with the research, stayed pace with the science. I've been able to surround myself with some very, very bright people. And I think I'm one of the few in any sport that have matched all the genius of the Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale, that, Henry Aaron, that era, which I was right toward the end of, and to where we are right now. You got half your pitching staff throwing 100 miles an hour, and athletes are making now more than most franchises were worth way back when. So I think I've tested the waters. The the fun thing, a description of me is I'm the Forrest Gump of sports. It seems like I'm always standing when the bus shows up. And in that respect, I am. I've been very fortunate, and I'm still having fun. In fact, as soon as we're done with this interview, I'm going to head to the gym, work out with a couple of pitchers, and we're going to go out and take their rehab. And so I still have a reason to get up every morning. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's 15 years ago, and they told me I'd be sitting in a wheelchair drooling on myself. And I honestly believe that staying involved with baseball and still being able to coach kids, whether they're big leaguers or little leaguers, gives me a reason to get up in the morning. And we're making progress along those lines too. So again, it's not a perfect world we're living in. It's crazy times, but I think I'm navigating the waters about as lucky as any man could be.
Well, Dr. Tom House, I think you've made a lot of your luck and you're more than a footnote in Hank's 715. And thank you for joining us on Collect and happy 50th anniversary.
Thank you, and thanks for making this even more special day. I'll hang out with you anytime. Just let me know.
You got it. I don't need any help pitching though.
Okay. Thanks, Darren.